You know, we spend so much of our lives driving, but have you ever really stopped to think about what's actually happening in your brain when you're behind the wheel? Today, we're going to dig into something super interesting, the difference between being a skilled driver and a truly knowledgeable one. And trust me, it's a bigger deal than you might think. So, I'll just ask you straight up, are you a skilled driver or are you a knowledgeable one? And yeah, you're probably thinking, aren't those the same thing? Well, stick around, because you're about to see there is a huge, huge difference. Okay, so here's the absolute core of it. A skillful person, they're all about the outcome. Did I get from point A to point B? Yep, cool. But a knowledgeable person, oh, they're focused on the process and the outcome. They get the how and the why of a good, safe drive. It's not just about reaching the destination, it's about mastering the journey itself. To really get our heads around this, we're going to use this really neat model called the 4 levels of understanding. And honestly, this isn't just about driving. This is a framework for how we process, well, pretty much everything in our lives. And here it is, the pyramid of understanding. See how it's built? Right at the bottom, you've got raw data. From there, we move up to information. Then we use that information to build knowledge. And right at the very peak, that's wisdom. We're going to climb this whole thing together, and we're going to do it using a super simple example, just a line painted on the road. All right, let's start at the very bottom, the foundation. This is where we go from seeing simple lines to understanding actual rules. So first up, data. What is data? Just think of it as raw, unfiltered stuff. Signs, symbols, things that are just there. They don't have any meaning on their own yet. They simply exist. Let's take our example. Before you ever learned how to drive, what was a double yellow line to you? Nothing, right? It was just 2 yellow stripes of paint on the road. A symbol, that's it. At this stage, it's pure data, no meaning attached. Okay, so how do we take our first step up that pyramid? We turn data into information. And how do we do that? We add a rule. You take the double yellow lines, that's our data, and you add the rule from the driver's handbook that says no passing. Boom. Suddenly, that meaningless symbol becomes a clear instruction. It answers the question, what does this mean? Now, this right here is where most of us stop, right? We memorize the rules, we pass the test, and we figure, job done. But the real breakthrough, the thing that really separates a decent driver from a great one, is making that jump from just having information to actually having knowledge. See, knowledge isn't about being able to quote the driver's manual. It's about applying that information out there, in the real world, in real time. It answers the how-to question. How do I take what I know and use it to handle this specific situation safely, right here, right now? A knowledgeable driver is like a real-time supercomputer. They're not just staring at the double yellow line. They're processing a ton of other stuff at the same time. They're trying to predict what that car up ahead is going to do. They're thinking about how the rain is making the road slippery. They're noticing those people on the sidewalk. They're reading all the other signs around. They're listening for sirens. That is knowledge in action. So here's a great way to think about it. Information is static. It's a fact. It tells you the rule. Don't cross the double yellow line. But knowledge is dynamic. It's alive. It tells you how to follow that rule while juggling a dozen other things happening around you so you don't get into an accident. One is just knowing a fact. The other is actually doing something with it. All right, so we've made it pretty far up the pyramid, right? We've gone from data to information, and then up to knowledge. But now we're going for the peak. This is a level that's about more than just you and your car. Let's talk about driving with wisdom. I love this way of explaining it. Wisdom is knowing the difference between doing things right and doing the right thing. Think about that. Doing things right, that's following the rules. That's knowledge. But doing the right thing, well, that's about understanding the bigger picture. It's about judgment. It's about finally asking the question, why? Why is this rule even here in the first place? And you know what the answer to that why is? It's all of us. It's the collective good. A wise driver gets that these traffic laws aren't just random, annoying rules. They're the glue holding together this giant, shared system that's supposed to keep all of us safe and moving. So when you drive with wisdom, you're not just looking out for number one. You're actually making the road and society a little bit better, a little less stressful for everybody. You're literally part of the solution. So think about where we've been. We started with a simple yellow line on the pavement, and we ended up talking about the well-being of our whole society. Pretty cool, right? And that brings me to my last thought for you today. This whole framework, this pyramid, it's not really just about driving, is it? So I'll leave you with this question. What else in your life are you doing with just skill when you could be doing it with knowledge?